The genealogies in Chronicles are carefully arranged and selected, starting from Adam and sequentially unveiling the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, let us first unlock the other tribes besides Judah. Let's begin with the descendants of Simeon. This section describes the inheritance of the tribe of Simeon and highlights the development of the family.
From the map, we can see that the land allotted to the tribe of Simeon was in the southwestern part of Judah's territory, including Beersheba at the southernmost tip. In chapters 4:28-33, the boundaries of their land are mentioned, adopting the content from Joshua 19. Chronicles intentionally changes terms like inheritance or possessed land, which denote sovereignty, to dwelt in or dwelling place, to emphasize that they were residents of the land, fitting better with the political environment of the Persian Empire at the time. Verses 39-43 describe the eastward migration of their land. The tribe of Simeon was primarily engaging in herding, so they needed to wander to find pastures for their flocks. This lifestyle and conflicts with foreign peoples gradually reduced their population, and they were eventually absorbed into the tribe of Judah. Next, we discuss the 2.5 tribes east of the Jordan River, moving from south to north: the tribe of Reuben, the tribe of Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh.
Notably, in 1 Chronicles 5:1-2, the author first explains the relationship between Reuben, Joseph, and Judah from a theological perspective. Reuben, by birth order, was the firstborn, but because he slept with Bilhah, his father Jacob's concubine, he lost his birthright. Thus, the birthright was given to Joseph, who saved the entire family of Israel by leading them to Egypt to escape famine. And he received a double portion of blessing. His 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, each became tribes of Israel. Meanwhile, another important theme from Genesis, the kingly blessing, was given to Judah.
The land inherited by the 2.5 tribes east of the Jordan is sometimes collectively referred to in the Bible as Gilead and Bashan, areas known for their fertile soil, lush pastures, and abundant agricultural produce. This prosperous land attracted the 2.5 tribes, and after the Israelites defeated King Sihon of the Amorites and King Og of Bashan, they requested Moses to allow them to settle there instead of crossing the Jordan into Canaan. Moses rebuked them for thinking only about economic benefits, neglecting the unity of their brothers and undermining national solidarity, which contradicted God's plan. The 2.5 tribes then proposed that their women and children staying in the east of the Jordan, while all their men would cross the river and fight alongside the other tribes, volunteering to be the vanguard until the war was over before returning home. This is recorded in Numbers 32.
From the perspective of conflict resolution, this appears to be a successful compromise. A new plan emerged from negotiations, which both parties accepted. And the 2.5 tribes kept their promise. However, what people can accept is not always in line with God's will. Nowhere in this story do we see anyone seeking God's counsel, and God had already clearly revealed the location of the promised land. Human weakness, however, led to a compromise in God's command, planting the seeds of future troubles for these tribes. In 1 Chronicles 5:25-26, we see the ultimate fate of these 2.5 tribes. They adopted the local customs, worshiping the gods of the land and rebelling against the will of the Lord. As a result, They were the first to be exiled to foreign lands, scattered, and never to return.
The pool in verse 26 refers to Tiglath-Pileser III, who ruled Assyria from 745 to 727 BC. Pul was his Babylonian title. He used diplomacy to gain control over Babylon and with greater ambition and military prowess than Assyrian kings. He reversed Babylonian political decline, reformed its military, expanded its territories, and destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel, exiling its 10 tribes throughout the Assyrian Empire. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister to him, and to bless in his name to this day.
The genealogy of Levi is placed at the center of the 12 tribes and is the most important chapter of the genealogies.
Levi had 3 sons, and the first mentioned is the genealogy of the descendants of his second son, Kohath, which included the high priest. Moses, Aaron, and Miriam were all descendants of Kohath. Aaron was the first high priest, thus all the high priests came from him. Zadok was one of the chief priests appointed by David. He remained loyal to David during Adonijah's attempted coup, supporting Solomon's rise to kingship and serving as the high priest. In Ezekiel, God's vision of the new temple specifically mentions that the priests who serve the Lord will be the descendants of Zadok, highlighting that his loyalty was valued by God and remembered for generations. Other important high priests after that include Hilkiah, who, during King Josiah's reign, was involved in repairing the temple and found the book of the law, and Sariah, who was killed by the Babylonians when Judah fell in 586 BC and the temple was destroyed. His son Jehozadak was taken into exile in Babylon. The scribe Ezra was also a descendant of Zadok. Chapter 6, verses 16 to 19, briefly mentions the sons of Kohath, Gershon, and Merari, while verses 20 to 30 provide a detailed record of their genealogies.
Before Solomon's temple was built, David had already established the worship system.
The leaders of the 3 major families of Levi, Heman from Kohath, Asaph from Gershon, and Ethan from Merari, led their fellow Levites in worship through singing and various musical instruments in the temple.
The descendants of Levi were scattered among the other tribes, as God had commanded, and this also related to their history and unique priestly roles.
Therefore, Levi had no allotment or inheritance with his kindred. The Lord in his inheritance, as the Lord your God promised him. The genealogy first lists the cities allotted to the descendants of Aaron from the Kohathites, followed by the number of the rest of the cities and detailed description. There were 48 cities in total, spread throughout Israel, which served as centers of the law. Among these cities were 6 cities of refuge: Hebron, Shechem, and Kadesh on the west side of the Jordan, and Golan, Ramoth, and Bezer on the east of the Jordan River.
After summarizing the genealogies of the 12 tribes, the author turns to the people who returned from exile and lived in Jerusalem, emphasizing the concept of all Israel.
All Israel was enrolled by genealogies recorded in the book of the kings of Israel, and Judah was taken captive to Babylon because of their unfaithfulness. Now the first to live in their possessions in their towns were Israelites, priests, Levites, and temple servants. Among those who lived in Jerusalem were people from the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh. The returning people included not only the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, but also representatives from the northern tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, and the priests and Levites were mentioned again. Chapter 9, verses 10 to 13, list the priests continuing the genealogy from chapter 6, 1 to 15, showing the continuity of the history before and after the exile. Verses 17 to 34 describe the duties of the Levites, including guarding the gates, serving as a team, and working in shifts. They managed the temple's utensils, all the sacrifices, and the sacred rituals. They were also in charge of the sacred materials, including fine flour, wine, oil, incense, and spices. Among them were those responsible for music worship. They did no other work, but were dedicated to praising God. The author's focus is on all Israel. In this section, the narrative alternates between the northern and central tribes and concludes with the genealogy of Saul. Although Saul's genealogy is not a major focus, it highlights Saul's historical significance as Israel's first king. This serves as a transition to the next theme, David as king.
After reading through all these names, we might wonder why the author of Chronicles spends so much space recording genealogies. Let us reflect on this with a small artifact. As early as around 3000 BC, people in the Near East carved names or symbols into small stones as personal identifiers called a bulla. Over time, these bullae evolved into a variety of forms, from cylindrical to stamp seals, with the largest being no more than 5 centimeters. They could be strung on necklaces, worn on wrists, or set into rings. They were impressed on containers and pottery, and today we can still see them on many pottery fragments. Sometimes they were also stamped on clay tablets to seal documents. These small, finely crafted seals played a crucial role in ancient social life, much like identification cards today, with functions extending from legal and administrative use to daily life. How can we recognize which of these seals belonged to Israelites? Names are the best reference. Israelite names were distinct from those of other nations. For example, they often include abbreviations for Yahweh as a prefix or suffix. Additionally, their bullae typically did not feature engraved idols, unlike those of other nations.
This is a bulla belonging to Gemariah, son of Shaphan. The scribe Baruch read the words of Jeremiah in the room of Gemariah. When King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon burned the city of David, this little bulla survived the intense fire.
Each name in the genealogies, like the bulla, is a living testimony, vividly telling a story, ordinary yet real and eternally remembered by God. These names not only draw the exiles closer to the memories and interactions passed down from their ancestors, but also build a bridge for us in present days. They help us realize that God will never forget us. Moreover, they allow us to spread the wings of faith and step back into the scenes of ancient Israel, witnessing how God was present in the lives of each person in these stories. Today, God extends an invitation to us through Chronicles, calling us to make our footprints the history of tomorrow as we participate in His grand plan of redemption.